I covered a lot of ferro-rod madness today in this video. There's a lot of stuff. You gotta watch this video and enjoy all the ferro-rod greatness in this. Here's a piece of flint on a ferro-rod. Strikes really nice. I want to thank all my subscribers and all the survivors out there who are making my channel grow and become very popular. Thank you very much. Let's get into another video for you to survive. We got a lot of stuff to cover today. The lighter, simple. It starts with a ferro rod. There's a little ferrocerium rod in there. These are the little sparkers, or they call them flints, but is it really flints? They're really ferrocerium rods. So I'm going to show you how to improvise a ferro rod with this. Let's get involved here. We'll get that open. Here's the sparking ferrocerium rods. You take one out. You take them out individually. I'm going to show you how to make your own ferro rod substitute. We're going to talk about this magnesium ferro rod wedge and socket for the bow drill. There's a smaller version. Socket here, socket or wedge there, ferrocerium rod on top. We got a fatwood ferro rod sparking device, fire starter. It goes in there. I got the elastic to keep it in there. Of course, I got my knife. This knife, I'm going to use a saw. That makes some sparks. This sparking device, this ferro rod, it has a striker. We have a sharpened hacksaw blade. That makes a nice striker. This is one of the strikers that came with the more modern magnesium ferrocerium blocks. That's not bad. They're getting better. Over the years, we have the Boy Scout one. This is the classic hot spark. This striker is available. That worked out well. Here's a Light My Fire. This is a classic striker. Works fine. Here's a really beefed up striker. So we got a lot of striking options available. Have you ever thought of this? Flint. Actual piece of flint. That's pretty impressive. Flint's a really good striker. So a sharp edge of flint does a lot of good work. Really, the bottom line is, for a lot of this stuff, you essentially need a spark to strike a fire drop. Here's a fire drop that I have. Check out that video if you haven't seen a fire drop, but essentially, you peel it apart. I don't even need the whole thing. Get the spiky hair in there. And essentially, we need a spark. Whoop, that was fun. We need a spark to ignite it. How many times? There we go. Lit right away. All right. That's a quick and dirty version of what we need. We basically need a spark. Let's talk about how to make some of the smallest ferrocerium rods. This right here is off one of those lighter, the welding torches. And I took a little screw eye, I sawed off one of the edges and I super glued it together. So now we have a little really tiny ferro rod stuck in here. So we're going to talk about small little ferrocerium rods with a Zippo. What I'm going to do is take them all out. They're going to come out. And I'm going to put them inside here. I took a stick. I sawed one. I sawed the edge. I sawed down here. Then I took out the blade and I cut out the groove in there. And since I had it, I figured I'm going to use my can opener. So what I did was I made a line on one end and a line a little bit apart on the other end. So one line, two lines, and I kept doing that. And then I pried out the little bit of wood in between. So where are we going with this? There's a little bit that I didn't get out. We're going to improvise a ferro rod. So with these little pieces here, they fit in there nicely. So what I got to do is basically super glue those in there, and I'm going to do that. I put the groove in there so it'll hold the little ferrocerium rods. And the reason I went through all the trouble with this part here is when I strike it, it's not going to throw these little ferrocerium rods out, and that's real important. So I'll show you this when I'm done with it. Put them in there. Going to line them up nicely. I'm really going to do a start at the end and work my way to the other side. Here are some classic magnesium fire starting tool, magnesium fire starter. Essentially, the important thing is to spend the time to actually accumulate enough magnesium to strike it. Now, skills have come a long way over the years, so people need probably just a ferro rod itself. But if you have the magnesium, it can be helpful. Essentially, this scraper is not so wonderful. So we need a scraper with a sharper edge. Let's go back to the saw blade on this knife. I like to take my time, get these shavings. So I have 100 shavings here, which kind of is about quarter size. And in order to increase my odds, I'm going to add another 100 shavings there. So I really want to increase the odds that this is going to work. A lot of times people go wrong and don't put enough shavings when they try to strike it. So let's give it a shot. We'll get our 200 strokes or 200 shavings. That'd be 201, but we're only going to use 200. So we'll concentrate them all together. There's the quarter for reference. Time to strike it. This is going to go up really, really bright. There it is. So the idea is to have something to ignite right away. Those of you who are really good with bow drill or hand drill, you could take this and use it as an ember to blow it into fire. And that's a classic magnesium ignition. Okay, let's move on. Let's take these to the next level. Well, I bought a piece of magnesium and I shaved off one piece into a wedge shape. On the other side, I made a socket for a bow drill. So that's kind of like the magnesium piece on steroids. So we have this piece that would fit into a spindle, and that would be our bow drill simulation. Now I have the glove because the magnesium gets hot. the magnesium gets quite hot. So save your hand a burn. This is another one. I took my time. It took some time to get the shavings off, but I eventually got a wedge shape in here. So to use that, that would be placed inside a little split that I have in this board. Make a little room so you can see. So that would be in there. Then you'd baton it. So you get it started. That's essentially the idea. Now I can split this off, make a better fireboard. I have a wedge. Basically, I wanted to show you the concept of the wedge, and I did. But I showed you the bigger wedge. Hey, make it a super socket, right? Socket on steroids. Now this socket has a wedge. It has a ferro rod, a pretty respectable ferro rod, and has a way of tying it. So I use JB Weld here to hold the ferro rod in there. So now I have quite the tool. It really takes the simple magnesium block and takes it to a whole nother level. It really, really enhances things. Okay. One of the problems I have with these older magnesium blocks is I would drop them on the cement or something, the driveway, a rock, and they'd come apart. So that means we need to repair it. In comes our super glue. We repair it with our super glue again. That's the solution. Now, get a little super glue in here, put this on, and then you're good to go. So you might want to be aware that if you drop these, they may come apart. And you don't want to lose this. This ferro rod, that's the real meat of the situation. It's going to really make the sparks. Another one. This is a ferro rod that comes with its own striker. Probably seen them in my other videos. But these come out. So again, add some super glue in there, add some super glue along the ferro rod here, and then you put it back in. Now it's not going to accidentally come out at the moment of truth when you really need it. I've had these where, sometimes it gets rough. So I'm striking and striking and striking, and then the ferro rod comes out. Not a good thing. Same thing with the paracord bracelet. These are wonderful because you get all these tools right around your wrist. But the situation also is the ferro rod can come out. So do yourself a solid, put a couple drops of super glue inside, and actually a couple drops inside, get a couple drops around the base of the ferro rod, and glue it in. So then when it's time for you to actually achieve your goal and strike, you can do it without the ferro rod coming out, because I've had it where the ferro rod comes out and it just is not a good day for me. Since we're talking about modifying and making things better, I've played around. The normal strikers are serrated. What I did was I took a diamond file. This is an example of a diamond sharpener, and I've worked on it until the edges came off. So it takes some time. I used a flatter diamond stone. I didn't use this one, but just for the sake of demonstration, I took off the serrations. And for me, I like it a little bit better. I think it gives me better sparks, and it still cuts. This is still sharp enough to cut paracord. So it's not like I lost out on that function. So you can kind of make this as sharp as you want to, but it's still a functional tool. So that's something to consider. So that's how you kind of repair or make it so your ferro rods stay in the actual handle. So that's important. When it comes down to it, you essentially just need a ferro rod that's going to be able to spark, to give you a spark so you can ignite, ignite the fire drop. There it is. All right. I gave this a little bit of time to dry, so kind of rushing the situation. Better to let it go overnight. Let's give it a shot. We'll fluff up the what's left of the fire drop. I'm going to use the saw blade. All right, that feels like it's together. So, as usual, you got to get the layers off. Wow, look at that! Right away. Wow, I love it. So, the Zippo lighter replacement flints, as they call them. Well, there's your improvised ferro rod. And remember, when I strike it, I have this lip here to stop me from going all the way off. In the past, these flints would fly off. That's why I did that. I did it so there was something to stop the flints from moving. I could have moved the flints all the way to the end here, but that's the way they glued in there, and you know what? That worked. I'm happy with it. There's sparks. I'm beating a dead horse because you know it works. Let's look at some examples of what will burn with a ferro rod. We have the classic birch bark. Scrape it one way, scrape it the other way. I have a pile here that I've already made, and I find it helpful to rip off a strip of bark. And birch bark's interesting because it comes in multiple layers. There's a lot of different layers here, so separating those layers isn't really a bad move on your part. So now it's almost like a twig bundle, but there's a lot of different parts to it. So let's strike the birch bark. Well, I'm going to use the saw blade. There it is. I got it going. Instantly add the birch bark, and you got yourself some fire. Quite effective. I'm going to discuss jute twine. Jute comes as string. You may take that with you. You may make a bracelet out of it. That's all right. When you need it, you cut it in thinner strips, peel them apart, untwist them, and you really want to separate as much fibers as you can. So the separation really makes the difference. So I'll just add it to this pile. So you saw how we went from bigger, smaller, and to really fine. Let's put this to use here. There we go. Fire. Very effective. But you got to use it quickly because it'll burn up. But that gets the point across. Next on the agenda is fatwood. Fatwood's pretty common. People know about it, but it can be purchased in a store. Of course, that's not my favorite thing to do. You take it and you make scrapings. Yep. Anyway, there they are right there. But for me, I like the more natural stuff. I found a stump, and, well, I tore it out of the ground. It's a pine stump, and you scrape and scrape and scrape, and you accumulate the fatwood shavings there. It smells really nice, and you can see the nice rust color here. And then there's some yellow there, but that orange, oh, I love it. So we have options. I can take some of the fatwood and cut some of these curls like I have here, or different pieces, or I can cut a larger piece. So time to ignite this with the ferro rod. Let's have some fun and use this piece of flint. There it is. Now that I got things going, wouldn't hurt to add some of the little pieces to give it a bigger chance of going up. That's pretty good burn. All that good smoke. So remember the knife, the cord comes off. Now, this is fatwood here, and this is a ferrocerium rod. So, same principles apply. I scrape, get my scrapings here, or shavings, collect them, and then I strike the ferro rod. So it's kind of an all-in-one. It makes a really nice handle, a really good handle. I have the option of putting it around my wrist. So when I'm done, I don't lose it. But I like to put the knife away when I'm done with it. Put the ferro rod back in, put it over top, and we're ready to go for the next one. We've been talking about the magnesium block. Well, what I did was I put orange around it to make it more visible in case I drop it. I have the tape, which I can take off. Here we go. I even put tape on the end so it'll be visible. So where am I going with this? Well, I made this into a bow drill socket, and since it's a socket, I put a little bit of cotton ball and Vaseline in there, so it's almost like its own fire drop case. So now if I need it, I take out the cotton ball and Vaseline, or the cotton ball and Vaseline acts as a lubrication. But in this case, it was intended to be a cotton ball and Vaseline so I can strike it with the ferro rod. So it gives me that little extra edge. So just kind of innovations with your gear. So, and that makes it so I don't lose it as easy. This is a classic light my fire still. The big and the small ones. I have shock cord, so I have the little hacksaw blade so I can make my sparks. Either use the saw teeth or the edge on the back. That's effective. I have some interesting things here. These are the little ones. They have little holes in them. Now, how can that be useful? Simple. You take these and you strike them. You can put it on a jute bracelet. In this case, I have it on some paracord, because really what I want to do is take it, put my hand in here. Now I have a grip. I have a nicer grip. We'll get the initial coating off, but you can see how it's striking nicely. So, bottom line, as long as I have a way to get a spark onto some cotton ball and Vaseline, I'm in business. So, that's a suggested way of how to hold this. Check out these shoes. Nothing there, but look, I got a ferro rod here. This could be EDC excellence. You can wear these and not even know it. Now, I didn't use this one. The coating is still on it. Unlike this one, it's shiny that I took the coating off. If I get them wet, the ferro rods have a tendency to degrade a little bit. This one isn't really degrading, but it is kind of oxidizing a little bit. You can see the grayness of there. So if I left this in water and put it in a plastic bag, I'd be in really bad shape. But this one has some good use. It has served me well. These little ferro rods, I put some duct tape around here and a shock cord handle, so I have another option. I like that one. That's the kind I use for the fatwood version. You know these ones. This one I keep in my survival kit and it works out pretty well. Actually, no, not this one. This is the ultimate survival one, UST. I find this one works really well. This one works better, and this one I ended up breaking the striker on it. I was a little too rough, so you got to be nice to the equipment so it can serve you well. Of course, for this one, there's a ferro rod sneaking in the lanyard here. So there's a ferro rod there. Again, same thing, as long as you can strike a spark into what you need to strike it into. I have the common match case. This has a ferro rod on it, but what I end up doing is I thought it was better if I glued a striking surface on here, and I glued another little ferro rod on. It looks like the kind from the magnesium block that fell off. Well, what I did was I hacksawed it, I cut it, and I glued it on there. It looks like JB Weld on there. So now I have a really, really impressive ferro rod on my match case. Decent handle, and it served me well. Sometimes I'd put cotton balls and Vaseline in there. So that's a way to kind of improve your match safe. This is just an example of the Boy Scout hot spark ferro rod. This one came with the striker here, but what I did with this is I made it into a fire drop. I made it black so I'd know which one is which. So in here I put the ferro rod and the striker inside here, so whenever I need it, I pop off the foil and I can get to it. I have a video on the fire drop, and this is just basically an application of how to turn a fire drop into a carrier for something else. This is for the ferro rod and striker. So now I know that I have a waterproof sparker, as long as the foil doesn't break. And there's other methods you can use to have protection in there, but essentially I got duct tape all around it, so it's pretty protected. And when I need it, which would probably be in an emergency or in a hurry, I can pop it out in a hurry and get it. I could put this in water because everything is sealed off, so it's not going to corrode, so I can have this for years and years and years and years, and then get it when I need it. Then I can pair it with the fire drop. So it's a very nice system. How can we forget the classic Strike Force? This is a real beefy fire starter. It has its own built-in striker, kind of reminiscent of this. It's a much larger version. This one, to those of you who know, it contains its own kind of, not a fire drop, but it's something to start burning. So you got a little fire starter tucked in the back, which is nice. So this is a beefy version, and it's big for the hands. And I've had a lot of good luck over the years using this. It's been very effective. This is tinder fungus from the bow drill video that I made with a bow drill that was buried or stored under snow. And check that video out if you want to see how I got a hold of this chunk of tinder fungus. This tinder fungus had a chance to dry, but I have some other tinder fungus over here, and here's a nice little chunk. You can take it. I like the rust colored stuff. Kind of break it apart a little bit. The stuff that's kind of spongy or corky is good. And you can really take it and break it, get it really fine. The more finer you do, the better chance it can take a spark, but that should be enough for this demonstration. So essentially, I increase the odds of something burning by breaking it apart. Let's get some sparks in there. There we go. This little one here started right away. Once I see that, I know I have it made. So that's classic tinder fungus. Now tinder fungus gets hot, so I don't want to really hold it. So that's going to burn. That's going to intensify. And you saw how the spark caught it. So really, the tiniest spark is what it takes to ignite dry tinder fungus. Tinder fungus is excellent when it's dry. It's really starting to go. This will go for a long time. And since this other tinder fungus is not lit, I can save it for something else. Now, I can put this in a bow drill bundle of kindling, or some people call it the tinder bundle. I can blow that in the fire. There was a time where I took a pretty good sized chunk of tinder fungus, might even be around this much, this size, and I put it in a twig bundle, a hemlock twig bundle, and then it took some time, the wind blew on it, and then this actually ignited the twig bundle. It took a little bit of time, but this and twigs was all it took. So the tinder fungus really gives you a lot of good options. Now you should be afraid of this in the sense that it is so effective that it's hard to put out, and it could be dangerous or hazardous. So it's so effective that you don't want to accidentally have a fire hazard where you are. This says char cloth here. This is a fire drop that contains char cloth. Gotta pop it and break it. There we go. There's the char cloth. Let's use something very tiny to ignite this. Going to use the paracord bracelet. Get the coating off, and then strike it. There it is. It's hiding under here, but I lit it. It got lit. So there, a tiny spark, ignited char cloth, and that's essentially what you need. So I applied the fire drop concept to char cloth. Now, what I did initially was I took the foil and I put it in some char cloth. So I put the foil around the char cloth, and then I put it inside. That way it would be protected. This one's a tinder fungus fire drop. So here's my fire drop. And then this is actually what I was talking to you about with the char cloth one. So now I have the tinder fungus that's encapsulated in some foil so it wouldn't stick to the tape of the fire drop. So once I find the ends, I have tinder fungus that's not on tape. So there's my little piece of tinder fungus, and that's protected and waterproof in the fire drop concept. So If you haven't seen my fire drop video, please watch that one. That's a very, very nice video on how to make them and take care of things. Yep, the char cloth is still lit. All right, very effective. I'll try to put it out, put it somewhere safe.